So it looks like another massive acquisition could occur as EA is looking to sell. This generation, I would say the big thing that has really defined everything that's been going on and has the most people talking has to do with the mergers and acquisitions, as we've seen some huge ones since the beginning of just this generation, from Bethesda to Activision to Bungie, from Zynga to the Embracer Group continuously buying up stuff. It really has just been non-stop. And we have some more news here of a massive player in the video game industry, a staple in the video game industry, and that is EA, that is looking to sell or merge. Now, this was first reported here by Puck.News, and they were talking about how NBCUniversal had missed the boat on trying to acquire a couple of big companies. Firstly, with Fox, and they missed the boat on that. Then they wanted to get some of the Warner Media assets, and we know what happened with that as Warner Media merged with Discovery. So Brian Roberts of NBCUniversal was just left with nothing right now, and they have been looking around the industry, and one of the big players that they had been in talks with in terms of a merger was Electronic Arts. In this attempt of EA being acquired by NBC didn't go through. They were in talks and it has fallen apart, but this hasn't stopped EA from looking to sell or merge. As it says here, in recent years, as media companies have taken greater interest in the rapidly growing gaming industry, Wilson and Electronic Arts have held talks with a number of different potential suitors, including Disney, Apple, and Amazon. Several sources familiar with these talks say EA has been persistent in pursuing a sale and has only grown more emboldened in the wake of the Microsoft Activision deal. Others say that EA is primarily interested in a merger arrangement that would allow Wilson to remain as chief executive of the combined company. So this is pretty interesting and breaking news overall for the gaming industry. As we know, EA is one of the biggest companies in the video game industry, having some of the most profitable IPs out there. And you look here to who they have had talks with: Disney, Apple, and Amazon, and it really brings everything full circle for some things that Phil Spencer has talked about. And we know we always think about the console wars, and you have the PlayStation fanboys versus the Xbox fanboys, but that, I would say, is generally just a social media thing amongst the fans. And you have Xbox and PlayStation sitting in their offices not thinking about that whatsoever, as they are seeing that there are much bigger players in the works that they are going to have to compete with, which has pushed their consolidation efforts further with the Bethesda deal and the Activision Blizzard deal, and then Sony trying to go out and get other stuff on top of what they have from Bungie. We've heard rumors about Square Enix and all of this type of stuff. Xbox and PlayStation know that there are bigger players coming in to the market that have a ton of money, and they need to set themselves up for the future so that they are able to continue to populate their ecosystems with subscription services and just putting games onto their platforms. And Phil Spencer talked about this. He talked about how Amazon and Google are the main competitors going forward, saying, when you talk about Nintendo and Sony, we have a ton of respect for them, but we see Amazon and Google as the main competitors going forward. That's not to disrespect Nintendo and Sony, but the traditional gaming companies are somewhat out of position. I guess they could try to recreate Azure, but we've invested tens of billions of dollars in cloud over the years. And this is something that I've talked about on this channel, and you see people talking about this when we look at the big competitive advantage that Microsoft and Xbox has over the competition, specifically when it comes to Sony. And that massive competitive advantage is Azure. And Azure is going to be the thing that they need to focus on going forward for their competition against the likes of Google and the likes of Amazon. And Sony, at the end of the day, have a strategic partnership with Microsoft to use Azure. And that's where they're going to continue to leverage their advantage going forward, which is why when you think about the console wars between PlayStation and Xbox, sure, people love to look at the sales of consoles. I talk about the sales. People love to look at the exclusives, the content, all that type of stuff. But at the end of the day, realistically, they are now battling a much different beast than what we saw back in the previous generations. And that big beast is going to be these massive companies that are going to continue to acquire these huge video game companies like EA. Like if Amazon or Google were to purchase EA, that would be a much bigger threat than, I would say, something like what has happened this year, which was Sony purchasing Bungie. And now with this news here that EA is really looking hard to sell, I think this is going to have huge shockwaves through the industry with whoever purchases them, because they aren't even looking right now at those traditional players, those traditional video game companies in order to buy them. They are looking at people like NBCUniversal, who obviously want to expand their streaming services. Adding a company like EA in there will do a lot to do that with all the games that they have, especially if you even just think about the EA Sports section of those games. You think about Madden, how well that does every year when they're literally just doing roster updates. So it would be a massive purchase. Now, should Xbox buy EA? My opinion on this is right now they're going through the Activision Blizzard acquisition, right? So they're not going to be able to purchase EA if they're trying to sell right away. They're going to have to wait for that to close. But you look at EA and you look at Xbox, overall, I think EA makes a ton of sense for Xbox with things like Xbox Game Pass. They already have EA Play within that service that you get access to. So it just makes complete sense if they were to just be acquired by Xbox and then continue to be merged into Xbox Game Pass and just grow the service that way. Because when you also look at the amount of subscribers that EA Play has, this was back in February of 2021. They are closed. They said here they're closing in on 13 million players, and that this has been boosted by the Game Pass Ultimate tie-in. So obviously there is big benefit for both Xbox and for EA for being a part of this service. And when we think about Xbox's ecosystem, we think about them just trying to grow that subscriber base and trying to get as many people into the service as possible, keep people engaged within the Xbox ecosystem so that they're always playing games on Xbox. This here would make a ton of sense because you're getting 13 plus million subscribers instantly a part fully of the Xbox ecosystem from EA Play. And all the games that are in there, you can just completely brand it as Xbox Game Pass games. And then you can start adding huge yearly sports titles day one to that service, which would be a massive draw. Imagine if you had Madden day one, and then you also have Call of Duty day one. It would literally be the most popular, the biggest, the most insane gaming subscription service out there that would draw in the most amount of mass because it would appeal to the most amount of people. People love to talk about exclusives, and exclusives are great. They love to talk about those games like Uncharted, like Horizon, games like Halo, games like Gears of War. All great games that draw in huge amounts of numbers for people to play. However, the games that do the best are those third-party games that appeal to the masses, like Call of Duty, like a Madden. So if EA is looking to sell, I think that Xbox, that Microsoft should get in on this in some way or another if they are interested, if they can even do it, because we know what's going on with Activision Blizzard. We know the stuff about consolidation, the monopoly stuff. And this right now, I don't think they would even think about doing, because they want to make sure the Activision Blizzard deal goes through. But if EA doesn't sell and they're looking to sell maybe in a year or two from now, I think this would be a really smart move by Xbox. And also at the end of the day, it would also be an extremely smart move by PlayStation, because we know that they are looking for more of those games as a service games, and they will have plenty of IPs, just even with these sports games, like I said, from EA, with the Ultimate Team stuff, with all the microtransactions and people coming back every single year to play those games to get into their subscription service. But this is just more acquisitions and more mergers, the thing that has defined this generation so far, which we look at it now, we celebrate it, we get excited, we get disappointed, get angry, all those types of things whenever an acquisition occurs, depending on where you are, where you play, where your primary place of gaming is. But we got to look at it more in the future, how much this is going to define generations going forward. This generation is literally setting up gaming for the future. It's not just something that's happening now to make these consoles that are currently out succeed. Yes, it will do that. But you think about the next generation and the generation after that, these mergers and acquisitions are going to have such huge effects as to how gaming occurs, the subscription services out there, and where people are going to want to play. And that's what everybody is setting themselves up for. There's just a huge fight right now for positioning within the video game industry. And if you look at it, I think Xbox right now is on top. I really think that with the acquisitions that they have, the amount of Xbox game studios that they have, Xbox Game Pass doing so well, they have set themselves up the best, I think, so far out of all of these services, out of all of these companies, in order to succeed going forward, especially once the games start coming out on a regular basis. And we're going to continue to see what PlayStation tries to do, because they aren't going to lay down when it comes to trying to get in on getting more content into their subscription service, meaning that they're going to continue to try to acquire more companies, more developers, in order to continue to grow PlayStation Plus. That's it for me, guys. What are your thoughts on this new report of EA looking to sell or merge? Do you think Xbox should try to get EA? If not, who do you think would be the best company to purchase them? If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up button. If you're new here, you liked what you saw, consider hitting that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your support, and I'll catch you in the next video.
We'll be right back.